Hey, Michael Gill again. This is part two of Gog Magog is not Russia. And today we're going to talk about the other countries that are involved. In part one, we talked about um, Meshach, Tubal, and those guys, Gomer, Togomar. So this time we're talking about the other verse, Ezekiel 38:5. It's Persia, Cush, and Put join with Turkey in the Gog Magog war. So Persia, we'll start with that one. No surprise there. That's modern day Iran. Right now, the war is going on as we make this video. And so it doesn't look like the mullahs are going to be removed. Hopefully they will be, but it looks like Iran will probably stay under the mullahs, maybe a little more moderate than they are now. Their ability to wage wars will be severely cut back. But at any rate, the Bible says that Persia invades with Turkey in the last days in the Gog Magog war. So Turkey's the major player in the war, but Persia is seen to ally itself with Turkey in this war. And Turkey's the strongest in the Gog Magog alliance, in the coalition. But Persia's military and economy, they're being greatly diminished. So it's unclear just how effective or how strong they're going to be, but they're going to jump in anyway. Given the chance, you know what they're going to do. The mullahs, if they're still running the show, and it looks like they will be, they're going to jump in with Turkey and invade Israel in the Gog Magog war. So let's talk about Cush. Cush also joins in, and that Cush is translated into English as Ethiopia, but that's only partially true. Cush refers to the region south of Egypt. So if you look at a map, and I don't put maps on here because most of them are copyrighted, and YouTube doesn't like putting copyrighted stuff in videos. So just look at a map. South of Egypt is what Cush means in the Bible. And so what's south of Egypt? Sudan. And Ethiopia is down there also. So let's look at Ethiopia first. And Ethiopia is one of the oldest Christian nations in the world. Remember, the Ethiopian eunuch became one of the first known converts to Christianity, and he went back to Ethiopia and spread the gospel all over the place. And they've been a Christian country ever since, and still is to this day. Ethiopia is over 60% Christian today and 30% Muslim, and it's one of the rare places on the planet where the Muslims get along with the Christians. And there's a cool story about that, but we don't have time for that right now. And so there's also a verse, Psalm 68:31. It says, Ethiopia shall soon stretch out her hands unto God. For centuries, Ethiopian Christians saw this as a prophecy fulfilled in their own nation. So not only is Ethiopia an ancient Christian country, but they also have a lot of Jewish people living there over the centuries. And so going way back to ancient days with King Solomon and those guys, and these guys are Hebrew-speaking Ethiopian Jews, Torah observant for all these centuries, mostly in isolation, living in isolation there in Ethiopia. And so Ethiopian Jews started, after Israel became a nation, they started to immigrate back to Israel under Israel's law of return. So these communities during Operation Moses, that was 1984, brought back thousands of Ethiopian Jews back to Israel. And then Operation Solomon in 91 continued. And but some of these more remote Jewish communities in Ethiopia have been there all this time and are still there. But recently, a new wave of Jewish immigration from Ethiopia has been coming back. 26 Ethiopian Jews arrived in Israel in February of 26 this year. And that was sponsored by the International Christian Embassy in Jerusalem. I have some friends there. And 40 more are scheduled to arrive soon. And the amazing thing is this is taking place during the war. I mean, there's not even supposed to be planes flying in there. And these Ethiopian Jews, it's like, are you kidding? Why would I go to Israel now? But they're going to Israel now. So it's an incredible story. And I've met some of these Ethiopian Jews. We've danced with them. And you want to get danced under the table, just dance with some Ethiopian Jews. And so today there's about 130,000 Ethiopian Jews living in Israel. And Ethiopia is one of Israel's strongest allies in the region. And Herzog, this year, President Herzog went to Ethiopia and to maintain those relationships and their military and agricultural and high tech and all that kind of stuff. And so Ethiopia and Israel are buddies. There's no way Ethiopia is invading Israel in the Gog Magog war. And so, as a matter of fact, Israel has joined with Ethiopia and they're tightening their relationship to counter the Neo-Ottoman Empire of Turkey, who runs the Gog Magog war. So there's no way Ethiopia is part of the Gog Magog war. So quit tell everybody that says, yeah, Ethiopia invades in the Gog. No, it's Sudan. Okay, speaking of Sudan, let's talk about Sudan. Sudan is nothing like Ethiopia, and Sudan's straight south of Egypt, where Cush is. And so Sudan is almost entirely Sunni Muslim. It is one of the darkest places in the world. Recently there was 40,000 killed, civil war and uprisings, and 14 million have been displaced, and 21 million are facing starvation. That's how bad Sudan is. You don't want to be in Sudan right now. And the U.S. has designated the Sudanese Muslim Brotherhood, that's who runs the country, as a terrorist organization. And the genocide, atrocities in Darfur and Kordofan, one of the most severe humanitarian crises on the planet. And Sudan currently has no diplomatic ties with Israel whatsoever. And in 1967, after the Six-Day War, Sudan hosted the Khartoum Resolution. And that resolution is famous for its three no's: no peace with Israel, no recognition of Israel, no negotiations with Israel. And this became the cornerstone of Arab policy toward Israel for years. So Cush in Ezekiel's prophecy is Sudan. Okay, now let's talk about Libya, or Put, in Ezekiel. And that Put refers to the North African people that settled west of Egypt, and that's modern day Libya. And also, just like Sudan, Libya is almost all Sunni Muslim. 97% of the population of Libya is Sunni Muslim. And Islam is the state religion, and Sharia law is the legislation. So you don't want to be in Sudan and you don't want to be in Libya. And so just like Sudan, Libya has no recognition of Israel, no embassies, no formal ties, no public normalization process with Israel. Libya remains one of the strongest pro-Palestinian, anti-Israel societies on the planet. And so let's just summarize this, the Gog Magog war summary. Ezekiel's list is not random. It forms a geopolitical compass surrounding Israel. So the northern arc of this compass that surrounds Israel is Meshach, Tubal, Gomer, and Togarmah, and all these countries, like in part one, are Turkey, Armenia, and Georgia. That's the northern part of the surrounding countries. The eastern arc is Persia, Iran. The southern arc is Cush, or Sudan, and the western arc is Libya. And this shows the coalition in the Gog Magog war is a multi-regional, and it surrounds Israel from all sides. Now that's important because Joel chapter 3 and Zechariah chapter 14 talk about the Gog Magog war. And two times in Joel 3, it says all the surrounding nations. Remember that. And then one time in Zechariah, all the surrounding nations. Zechariah also says that. And we'll get more into these prophecies down the road. So these prophecies are Middle Eastern centric. Russia's not in the context. China's not in the context. We'll get to that in the next video maybe. But so when you read this, and you have to understand, these Zechariah and Joel both say the surrounding countries. And this list of Gog Magog surrounds Israel. It's not Russia. It's not China, okay? So now I want to talk about something from the New Testament, just to conclude this. And that's the letter to Pergamum. And to the angel of the church in Pergamum write, The one who has the sharp two-edged sword says this, I know where you dwell, where Satan's throne is, and you hold fast my name and did not deny my faith, even in the days of Antipas, my witness, my faithful one, who was killed among you, where Satan dwells. That's Rev 2. And so, where is Pergamum? Pergamum is modern day Bergama, Turkey. The throne of Satan in the last days is in Turkey. Turkey leads the coalition of nations against Israel in the Gog Magog war. That is not an accident. That's also where the throne of Satan is. So Pergamum was the perfect storm of spiritual opposition back in the day. It's the place where Satan dwells. This matters because Revelation often uses geography symbolically as pictures of things. So why is Pergamum called Satan's throne? Get this, it housed a massive altar to Zeus. It was shaped like a giant throne and it overlooked the whole city. It was 4 stories tall and had smoke coming up all the time from continuous sacrifices. And it was also the center of worship for, I'll try to say this, Asclepius. Asclepius was the Greek god of healing. Worshipped, and this dude was worshipped across the ancient world. And his symbol, we all know what his symbol is. It's the serpent entwined staff, borrowed from Moses and corrupted by these guys. So it's still used today wherever you see medical stuff. So people came from all over the empire for healing. And they would come to this place in Pergamum, and snakes roamed freely in this temple. And the serpent imagery aligns perfectly with Revelation's depiction of Satan as the ancient serpent. So this Asclepius claimed miraculous healings at this temple. And all these people went there for healing. And this is a foreshadow of the false prophet in Revelation who performs great signs and wonders. And so Antipas, a Christian martyr, he was killed in Pergamum, where Satan's throne is. Pergamum was the center of opposition to the church, persecution and martyrdom. So Pergamum was the epicenter of everything Revelation opposes. Pergamum was the center of violent opposition to the church and persecution and martyrdom. And John calls it Satan's throne, the place where the enemy's influence was most concentrated. And Revelation's not random. John deliberately uses Pergamum as a foreshadow of the global system that he later describes in Revelation as the beast system. So in other words, Pergamum in Turkey is the first century foreshadow of the end time beast system, political power, false religion, satanic authority, fused all together in one throne, the big throne that overlooked the city. So Ezekiel calls the leader Gog. John calls the leader the beast. They're one and the same. Ezekiel uses one word, John uses another, and we'll talk more about these subjects down the road. But the main conclusion here is that Turkey leads the Gog Magog coalition of nations surrounding Israel in the last days. And don't forget my blog, endtimebibleprophecy.com, and my 2 books on Amazon, The 2 Witnesses and The Harlot of Babylon. And I'll see you in the next video. Shalom.